Hi, I'm Wojtek. In this tutorial you will learn how to create realistic liquids in Cinema 4D, add bubbles and render the final result in Redshift. I will walk you through the process step by step from simulation setup to bubbles and final render. If you enjoyed this tutorial, like, subscribe and hit the bell for more Cinema 4D and Redshift tips. Let's start a new project. At first we go to the Simulate menu, to the emitters and create a basic emitter. Then we press play and we see how the particles are generated into the Z direction. This can be changed. So if we go to the Attributes Manager, to the Properties tab, we see the velocity and the direction is set to normal, but we can change this to axis mode, like X, Y and Z. But let it be like it was, to the normal direction. The next step, we go to the Emission tab and choose another shape. In this case, a circle. And the size 20 by 20 centimeters. And the rate maybe to 1000. We can change the shape also through the handles here. But let it be like it was. So let's raise the emitter up to maybe 150 centimeters and rotate it to 90 degrees. Now we see how the particles go downwards. But they don't go downwards because of the gravity. No, they go downwards because we have in the Properties tab activated the speed by 100 centimeters. So if we change this to 0 centimeters, we see no gravity affects the emitter. The emitter gets filled up with the particles. To activate the gravity, we need a modifier. So we go to the Simulate menu, Modifiers, and choose the Liquify modifier. Then we put the Liquify modifier as a child into the particle group. And we press play again, and we see now how the particles are influenced by the gravity. In the next step, we create a collider object. So go to the Primitives and select the plane and add to the plane a collider tag. So in the Liquid Collisions tab, we see the volume selected, but we need a surface. Now we see how the particles hit the plane. But let us make some changes in the Liquify modifier. We go to the Liquify tab and we see Use Default Radius. Let us set this default radius inside the Scene attributes. Under Liquids we have default radius 3. We set it to 1 centimeter. Go back to the Liquify settings and change the viscosity to 0.75 and the surface tension to 2. Now let's see, the rate is not high enough. We set this to 10,000. That looks better. Okay. So let's change the color of the particles. We go to the Properties tab under Color and let's make it more bluish. Okay. Then we duplicate the emitter and the particle group and rename it to Bubbles. And here also Bubbles, and change the color and let's see what happens. Okay, and there are also, I see, some particles are going over that, but we can change that, we go to the liquify modifier, to the constraints, and set the easy in to 15 frames. Also for the bubbles modifier, also to 15. Okay, let's see what happens. That looks better. And decrease, not the density, no. In the emission tab, we decrease the rate, maybe at first to 100. So now we see there are some bubbles inside that. And let us make this a bit more interesting. We create a null object, change the coordinates 0, 0, and name it particles 1, and put the emitter inside the particles. Then we create a circle, change the direction, the radius to 50, and the coordinates were 150. Okay. Then we create an animation tag, an align to spline, put the circle inside the spline path, go back to 0, record position 1, and record the last position. And press play. Okay. That's better. But this looks more like water. So let's see, the surface tension is set to 2. The liquefy tension is also set to 2. And let's create a liquid mesh. Okay, press play. So we can optimize that. So if we go to the scene settings, simulation tab, liquids, we have this iterations that are similar to the simulation iterations. So we can raise them up maybe to 10 and press play again. And this looks more like a honey or slimy liquid now. Then I think we could change the size of the basic emitter and the bubbles emitter also a bit smaller. Press play again. That looks quite cool. Let's tidy up the order. We put the mesh also under the particles. Okay. And then rename it floor. And the liquid mesh, go to the tab export, and we activate all the settings here. So press play again. And something went wrong. Take it out. Let's see what happens. No. Go back. That's okay. Looks better. And yes, that's right. Okay. So, we rename it particles. Upsala. Wait a second. Particles 1, liquid mesh. Okay, that looks better. So, let's create a new material. I use the open PBR materials, and we need a transparent liquid material. So set the base white to 0, transmission to 1, and the color should be a bit more funky, so maybe not so intensive. Copy the color and paste it to the scatter, and we set the depth to maybe 20, and of course don't forget to make it darker. So and the IOR 133, and maybe the roughness to 0.1. Then place it to the liquid mesh, and we see the transparency in the particles. So we also need a color. We rename it to liquid and create also a material for the floor and place it on the floor. Make it maybe a bit darker, and then we create a dome light. So, and of course a camera, and then we activate the render view, and we see all the particles inside the liquid mesh. So to avoid to see the particles, we need a Redshift tag. Go to the render tags, place the object onto it, and also onto the bubbles. So the next step, we create a bubble color. Then we place it on the bubbles, and we don't see anything. No, we don't see the bubbles. So what we have to do is create a sphere, let's say 0.5 centimeters, maybe just 16 segments, and create a cloner. Inside the cloner, go to object mode and place the bubbles inside. Yes, now we see the bubbles. But the bubbles are, well, no, the bubbles have all the same size. I think we create a random tag. No, we create a random effector. Yes, effector. And in the parameters, we change the position. We don't change the position, we change the scale. A uniform scale of, let's say, 1. Now we have different sizes. And let's rename this to bubbles, and in the bubbles material we go again with the base white to 0 and set up the transmission to 1 and set the IOR to 1, And now, wait a second. Yes, we have to place the bubbles on the cloner object. Yeah, now you see the bubbles. So, and the cool thing is that you can replace the sphere with other objects. Maybe, I think we need more bubbles, let's say 200. Go back and play again. Wait a second. And stop. And let's see what Redshift does. That looks good. Great. We can also optimize the surface if we go to the liquid mesh properties, the geometry smooth iterations. If we set it higher to 5, yes, that's better. And to make it a bit more interesting, first we change the name cloner particles 1. Okay. Then we also rename circle, and we duplicate, oh no, wait, we rename that part bubbles 1, basic emitter 1, and particle group 1. Then we can close the preview, and we duplicate the particles, rename them into particles 2, bubbles 2, again 2, 2, and 2. Then we have the liquid mesh. We also rename that into particles 2. And maybe we change the order. Circles 1, mesh 1, and circle particles 2. Okay. Then we duplicate the liquid and of course rename it liquid 1 and liquid 2. Then we change the color. Maybe let's make it bluish. Okay. And place it to the second mesh. And then we have the circle and the align to path. So we place number 2 inside of that. And then we just rotate the circle about 180 degrees. So, and then press play. And now we have something that's wrong. That's because we have to go to the particles, to the mesh, and go to the mode and say, okay, include only particles 1. Let's place it there. Particles 1,
no, include bubbles 1 and particle group 1. And in the other liquid mesh, we place, wait a second, no, that has been wrong. Here, include, and there we go. Delete that and include the bubbles and the particle group 2. And now we don't see the particles here inside, so we have to set up, let's place it also here and duplicate that, rename that to particles 2, and place inside the particles 2 the bubbles 2. Okay, there we go. Now we have two liquids with different colors, and there they gonna mix up. So let's see what happens in the IPR, and press play. Oh, wait. So he starts. Great. Whoops. Now, I've forgotten to choose the right camera. Now we have two liquid meshes that gonna mix up. Press play again. Wait a second. Not so fast. Play pause. Play again. Whoops. Maybe we change the length to 180 and we have the align to spline. Go to so, and then we functions, track after, repeat after. Yes, that what I was looking for. Repeat. Okay. So play. Nice. As I said before, you can also exchange the sphere with a plane. Let's say 0.511 and place the plane inside the cloner. And then we can create another material. Let's say it's metallic and place it onto the cloner. And there we have some flakes. They can also be a bit smaller. Let's say 0.2. And then we have a random. The random. Wait a second. We have the random. Let's say random 1. And we have a random 2. And the particles get the random 2. Delete that. And let's say we have a different scale and we have maybe more of them. And wait, 400 bubbles too, and maybe we create a bit emission. Let's rewind, press play. And start rendering. Yes. Okay, the bubbles are maybe also too big. Let's go to the particles 1 and there was one. We can also go higher, maybe 400, and the plane was 0.2, and let's say the sphere is also smaller and the random is also 2. So we have more bubbles and that looks nicer. Okay, so let's stop it and let's optimize the lighting. So we create an area light and place it by side to the side. Then we need a target and a null object. Let's call it target and place it inside the target tag. So now we can go a bit higher with the light, maybe not so intensive. Yes, that's interesting. For the last step, I have created a cup. This cup is free, can be downloaded. The link is in the description below. And as you can see, I have also added the bubbles again to the blue liquid. And to speed up rendering, I have cached the whole scene. Just select one of the particle groups and go to cache scene. So, thank you for watching and bye.